I'm going to make a miniature pot with a 4-ounce ball of porcelain clay. So into the centre and then start coning. And this coning process of lifting the clay up and down is really quite essential. Even if you're taking the clay straight out of the bag, it's a way of homogenizing the material so that when you're working on it in the later stages, it feels very smooth, very creamy, and it's less likely to go out of centre. So I'm just lifting my hand back now so that you can see just how the process takes place. It's very difficult making something like this and doing a demonstration with such a small piece of clay because my hand's hiding the clay all the time. So occasionally through I'll just step back so that you can see. So centering the clay now, happy with the coning, and now one finger locked over the other, I'm going to make the centre depression almost down to the wheel head. Now I take my bottom pricking tool, stick that in just to see how thick that bottom is and if it's going to be okay, and then I'm ready to open out the base and make the wall of the pot. First pull, more or less a cylinder, and now the second pull I'm starting to shape the pot into a bellied necked form. A lot of potters just make a cylinder and then they push the cylinder out, but I don't do that. I go for the shape I want right away, almost from the first pull. So now several passes up and down, squeezing the pot thinner and thinner and lifting the wall higher and higher. Porcelain's extremely difficult to use because it's quite floppy. It's not like a normal stoneware clay. Now I'm using the dottle, D-O-T-T-L-E. That's just to a sponge on a stick just to remove water from the inside. And that I've spent a lot of my life trying to attach bits of sponges to sticks with bits of string and tape and all kinds of things. But recently I've found these little paint dabbler tools which are intended for children to paint with, available in any art shop, and you can get them in different sizes, so that's just made my life a lot easier using that. You must get the water out of the base of the pot, of course, because otherwise, as the pot is drying out to leather hard, the water will just simply make its way out and the pot will collapse. So now I'm using the tool to just remove the wobbly top. If you leave the top wobbling too much, which often happens, it can just start to throw the pot out of centre. And you get the wobbly top often because the pot isn't quite in centre in the first place. Now I'm using my necking stick, or a cuticle stick, and that's to thin out the top. The one question I'm asked all the time is, how on earth do I get my finger inside these tiny pots to be able to make the neck part? Well, now you have the answer. Just use a cuticle stick and squeeze it between your finger and the stick, and up comes the wall. Just slowly now modifying and forming the shape and making sure I've got exactly what I want. Back in with the necking stick. Making just the final adjustment to make sure the shape's okay there. I'm really more concerned about the inside shape because I'm going to turn the pot anyway, so I can modify and adjust the outside quite a lot, but there's nothing I can do with the inside, obviously. Top's slightly wobbly now, doesn't really matter, I'll sort that out when I come to do the turning. Better not to try and cut that off now because it's just so delicate. And now I'm using a piece of sponge. I just buy upholstery sponge and cut it up into small pieces. I much prefer that to natural sponges. And that's just simply a lollipop stick. So I'm just clearing and tidying up the bottom of the pot there before I try and cut it off. Just a little underscore there as well. And that's what the finished pot will look like, more or less. You can see there's pretty massive shrinkage, about 15% takes place when it's been turned and then finally fired. Through with the wire and then leave it to go leather hard and get on with the turning. That's about 5 minutes to throw the pot, but there's another 55 minutes involved in the turning and the finishing.